Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, the Arlington Fly-In gets a refund. We'll bring you the latest update on Bill Harrelson's global circumnavigation, and a Korean air executive gets busted. Welcome to the debut of Airborne Unlimited. I'm Ashley Hale. The Northwest EAA Fly-In in Arlington, Washington received a late New Year surprise. The FAA has decided to return fees once mandated for ATC services at the event. Our very good friend, Arlington Mayor and Fly-In Director and private pilot Barbara Tolbert said in part, quote, "Thanks to Senator Patty Murray, who is one of our advocates for having the FAA administrator review this policy, the FAA has changed their policy about charging for the temporary control tower at our fly-in," end quote. This means returning last year's fees and waiving fees in the future. After a review, the FAA determined that the services provided during the fly-in is not more than the usual service provided for the airport. However, they also said that if the fly-in services do increase, the issue of levying charges will be reviewed. Now it remains to be seen if FAA service fees charged to other events will be reviewed under what appears to be a more reasonable approach by the FAA. Last week, we reported that Bill Harrelson had departed his home base in North Carolina on December 28th in an attempt to set a polar route around the world record in his purpose-built Lancair IV. Here's an update on his progress. Unfortunately, his attempt has hit a snag. He departed Punta Arenas, Chile on December 31st for leg 3 of his trip, bound for Hamilton, New Zealand, by way of the South Pole. However, due to weather concerns, he ultimately decided safety required a turn back to Chile. However, since Bill was successful in reaching the South Pole, he is now free to take whatever route he chooses to his next landing site in New Zealand. His team said his next leg will likely be a mostly direct route to New Zealand. The latest difficulty appears to be acquiring landing permission at New Zealand. According to updates on Facebook, Bill is healthy and well rested. They sorted out some technical glitches, and N6ZQ has made a successful test flight. He and his team are currently considering their options. After the break, we'll take a second look at the bizarre nut rage story that just seems to keep going.
ADS-B will be mandatory for most aircraft by 2020 in the United States, but you can benefit from ADS-B today with the Bendix King KT-74 Mode S transponder. The KT-74 meets the global mandates for ADS-B out when attached to a suitable WAAS GPS. AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
Welcome back. Well, if you'd like to be a part of the Airborne Unlimited vision and lend us your support, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. Here's a follow-up on a bizarre story we reported last month. A former Korean air executive, whose father also happened to control the airline's parent company, has been placed under arrest in connection with the nut rage incident on December 5th. Cho Hyun-na had berated a senior airline flight attendant for serving her macadamia nuts in a bag rather than on a plate. She forced him to kneel and apologize on the plane, and then she ordered the plane to taxi back to the gate in New York to remove the flight attendant from the aircraft. Cho resigned from her position at the airline, and her father publicly apologized for her behavior. Now Cho has been arrested and placed in a detention facility after a court approved the warrant for her arrest. Another Korean air executive was also arrested because it's believed he pressured other airline employees to sweep the incident under the rug. Each week we share with you a sample of an online video one of our viewers found especially entertaining. We call it our Aero Video of the Week.
Final liftoff of Atlanta.
The flying wing, which may revolutionize plane design.
In this video of a newsreel story from days gone by, you'll see how a common shoe heel lift inspired an interesting airplane design. Search the flying heel lift on YouTube. After these messages, we'll head for a news-laden trip around the patch.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird X-Wind SE and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulation.com.
Finally, the extraordinary story of the world-changing X-Prize space competition is being told and illustrated with hundreds of insider photos in Jim Campbell's colorful new book, Beyond the Blue. Journey with Jim as he flies formation with spaceships, plays in zero gravity, prepares rocket racers, and documents the amazing first decade of the personal space race. Available this summer. Get your advance order in now by checking out www.kindredspirit.com.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. A savvy internet site operator found a way to save money on airline travel by using a technique called finding a hidden city. It's legal, but United Airlines and Orbitz are filing suit for unfair competition. When business is good, everybody wins, according to Boeing. They've had a record year, and Boeing is ramping up to meet the demand. They need more workers, and the Help Wanted sign has been posted. The FAA says there may be a skin-to-bonding problem on the composite side panel of the rudder on certain Airbus aircraft. The FAA is proposing an airworthiness directive requiring inspection and repair. EASA has already issued a similar notice. A TV station recently featured a story about Dion Burns, an African-American woman who is a Continental Airlines first officer. Burns says she hopes that someday a black female airline pilot will not be an unusual sight, and we couldn't agree more. The FAA has issued a special airworthiness information bulletin regarding a Sherlock nut on the tail rotor drive flange for some Airbus helicopters. It appears the nut has not been retaining its torque, and the SAIB requires inspection of the affected part. Well, that's it for today's trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. The FAA is proposing a $317,500 civil penalty against United Airlines for allegedly operating an aircraft that was not in compliance with federal aviation regulations. The FAA alleges that on January 19, 2013, United mechanics removed and replaced a nose landing gear wheel and tire on a Boeing 767 without installing a required axle washer. The Boeing and United maintenance manuals warn that the wheel bearing can fail if the washer is not installed. An FAA inspector discovered the missing washer during a routine inspection. It's alleged the aircraft was operated on 35 passenger flights while the washer was missing. United has requested to meet with the FAA to discuss the case. Well, that's our program for Monday, January 5th. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is now streamed daily, Monday through Friday. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations for the best in aviation and aerospace news. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.